Hello, my name is Rais Aziz Mohammed, and today I'm going to be presenting to you about databases versus blockchain and how uh, and the strong argument we made that a lot of web applications on the internet would rather be better suited for blockchain rather than databases. The web has a deep-rooted issue, and this issue is trust. How can a consumer know whether information presented to them is verifiable? And how can content owners claim ownership of their information? We suffer from plagiarism, fake news, and revisionism. And what about social media? Social media was designed to use its users. Just look at the business model. It's our content, it's our data, it's our attention. And at the moment, it's the companies that reap the rewards and not the end user. As Dries Beytaert says, I believe open source to be the only way to build a pro-privacy, anti-monopoly open web. Let's take a look at closed source systems and open source systems. But before we can do that, we need to identify three trust relationships. The first one is the consumer, the merchant, and the software. The consumer has to trust the software, and the merchant has to trust the software. But there's one more relationship, and that is the consumer has to trust the merchant in not being evil. With open source systems are free to use, modify, and distribute. And in most cases, they are cheaper than your proprietary counterparts. Open source platforms allow the consumer to trust the software, and the merchant can also trust the software. But there's one relationship that is not solved over here, and that is, how does the consumer trust the merchant? To solve that last and final relationship, we need to dive into what is a database and what is a blockchain. A database in its simplest form is a place where data can be inserted and updated. And for example, just an article or even a revision of an article. Anyone with access to actions of the database can read and write to it. What is a blockchain? A blockchain is nothing more than a database, but it's distributed. And because it's distributed, those who have access to its saved actions need consensus before they can make modifications to it. In blockchain, every block is hashed, and every block is hashed with the previous block's hash. This allows us to keep track of all the blocks, thus chaining it together, hence the word blockchain. If a block is changed, all the preceding blocks break and you can't use it anymore because these become invalid. What happens if we change a database to a blockchain, for example, Twitter? What happens when a CEO tweets something about stocks going up or down? People buy in and make hundreds of millions of dollars, and also people can lose hundreds of millions of dollars. But how do we know that the CEO actually said that? Does someone inside Twitter modify the database, or did some hackers from outside corrupt the database? All of this is not totally verifiable. Does replacing the database with blockchain matter? Yes, it does. This is because if Twitter had to convert the database to blockchain, all of these would be verifiable. Blockchain allows us to commit to integrity with intention rather than just hoping that it exists. In summary, imagine products, terms and conditions being timestamped, and imagine as a journalist not linking to an article, but rather a revision of a specific article. Wouldn't that change and improve our commerce, journalism, and therefore our democracy? Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Reese. So now, is there any questions on the floor? Okay, we've got a question from Lucky. Bring you a mic.
Yeah.
Hi. In your example where Twitter would be on the blockchain, who would the verifiers be? Who would these other people or entities that verify that this data is accurate?
It could, so you can get company-based blockchains, and this can be linked with government-based blockchains, and they could verify if the person actually said that tweet or not, because each thing in the blockchain is staged. So the metadata is staged at each portion. So somebody could verify it without any revisions.
So the single authority would still be Jack.
In a way, yes. In a way. But nobody provides us a platform to change.
Okay, one last thing. Someone once said to me here at BBD that blockchain is a technology that's looking for applications. How do you feel about that?
It can be a technology that's looking for applications, but I think there's already a place for it currently in the web, because there's a lot of misinformation in the web currently. So it can just be used just by replacing a database, your simple traditional databases.
Okay, any final questions? Okay, we've got a question.
Okay, so you're proposing to use the blockchain to negate the effects of misinformation. What is stopping someone from just putting misinformation on the blockchain? Like, you are verifying that, yes, that's what someone said, but that doesn't necessarily mean what they said was true when they said it.
So on the blockchain, when you try and change information, what happens is all the preceding blocks break and they become invalid. So what happens is it's very hard to notice. It's very easy to notice when something has changed on the blockchain, because all the preceding blocks break. So in the blockchain, everything has revisions where you can go back to an older state. You can't change something.
Okay, but what if the initial version, even if it isn't changed on the blockchain, what if it was wrong when it was actually put on the blockchain?
You can still verify it, because then you'll see the wrong version. At least you'll know that the wrong version was revisioned and made right at the end.